This is a long excerpt from the actual notes of Leonardo da Vinci. I am well aware that because I did not study the ancients, some foolish men will accuse me of being uneducated. They will say that because I did not learn from their school books, I am unqualified to express an opinion. But I should reply that my conclusions are drawn from first-hand experience, unlike the scholars who only believe what they read in books written by others. Although I cannot quote from authors in the same way they do, I shall rely on a much worthier thing, actual experience, which is the only thing that could ever have properly guided the men that they learn from. These scholars strut around in a pompous way without any thoughts of their own, equipped only with the thoughts of others, and they want to stop me from having my own thoughts, and they despise me for being an inventor. Then how much more should they be despised for not being inventors, but followers and reciters of the works of others? When the followers and reciters of the works of others are compared to those who are inventors and interpreters between nature and man, it is as though they are non-existent mirror images of some original. Given that it is only by chance that we are invested with human form, I might think of them as being a herd of animals. Those who try to censor knowledge do harm to both knowledge and love, because love is the offspring of knowledge, and the passion of love grows in proportion to the certainty of knowledge. The more we know about nature, the more we can be certain of what we know, and so the more love we can feel for nature as a whole. Of what use are those who try to restrict what we know to only those things that are easy to comprehend, often because they themselves are not inclined to learn more about a particular subject, like the subject of the human body? And yet they want to comprehend the mind of God, talking about it as though they had already dissected it into parts. Still, they remain unaware of their own bodies, of the realities of their surroundings, and even unaware of their own stupidity. Along with the scholars, they despise the mathematical sciences, which are the only true sources of information about those things which they claim to know so much about. Instead, they talk about miracles and write about things that nobody could ever know, things that cannot be proven by any evidence in nature. It seems to me that all studies are vain and full of errors unless they are based on experience and can be tested by experiment. In other words, they can be demonstrated to our senses. For if we are doubtful of what our senses perceive, then how much more doubtful should we be of things that our senses cannot perceive, like the nature of God and the soul and other things over which there are endless disputes and controversies. Wherever there is no true science and no certainty of knowledge, there will be conflicting speculations and quarrels. However, whenever things are proven by scientific demonstration and known for certain, then all quarreling will cease. And if controversy should ever arise again, then our first conclusions must have been questionable. And now I will give you Jason Post.
Leonardo da Vinci's sermon is a tough act to follow there. Thank you, Jan. Oh, take off the mask. You get to see my face then. Good morning. Unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to memorize my sermon this week, so I'm just going to read it to you. I also have new glasses, and as you can see, it can be a challenge. Leonardo da Vinci might have been the most intelligent human who ever lived. He was a magnificent naturalist, painter, sculptor, architect, inventor, military engineer, and draftsman. The epitome of a true Renaissance man. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know what belief system he truly believed in? In other words, what was Leonardo's true religion? Here I am defining the phrase, true religion, as a system of beliefs and practices that one values more than any other. If you value the assertions of Jesus of Nazareth more than any other assertions, your true religion is Christianity. And if you would be willing to let every human be tortured to death just so you can have 100 pain-free years, your true religion is selfishness. When determining someone's true religion, it helps to know his or her epistemology. Everyone, please say epistemology. Epistemology is how one determines what beliefs are true and what beliefs are false. What did Leonardo base his beliefs on? Was it the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church into which he was baptized? Was it the teachings of the Bible? Or was it something else? Leonardo's writings indicate that he based all his beliefs on reason. Reason is one's ability to perceive reality as honestly and completely as one can, and then make logical conclusions based on what one perceives. Marco Roschi's biography, Leonardo, notes that Leonardo adopted an empirical approach to every thought, opinion, and action, and accepted no truth unless verified or verifiable, whether related to natural phenomena, human behavior, or social activities. Leonardo himself wrote, "Anyone who conducts an argument by appealing to authority is not using his intelligence. He is just using his memory." All right, so we have established that Da Vinci based his beliefs on reason rather than something else such as superstition. But did he believe in God? Yes. We know this because Leonardo wrote about God as if God exists and did not write about God as if God does not exist. Listen to the following quotations from the maestro's own writings. "Good report soars and rises to heaven, for virtuous things find favor with God. Evil report should be shown inverted, for all her works are contrary to God and tend toward hell. Thou, O God, dost sell unto us all good things at the price of labor." We may justly call painting the grandchild of nature and relate it to God. We, by our arts, may be called the grandsons of God. Now that we are convinced that Leonardo both based his beliefs on reason and concluded that God exists, let's consider whether he was a Christian, perhaps a Roman Catholic Christian or some kind of fundamentalist Christian. Da Vinci was not a devout Roman Catholic. In fact, he had at least 3 powerful reasons to hate the Roman Catholic Church. 1, Leonardo was a truth seeker, and the Roman Catholic Church in the Middle Ages tended to imprison, torture, and execute truth seekers. 2, Leonardo thought that the Roman Catholic Church was scamming its less sophisticated members. Leonardo objected to the commercial exploitation of relics, religious art, and pious items, saying, "I see Christ once more being sold and crucified and as saints martyred." In his notebooks and letters, he protested the sale of indulgences, liturgical ceremonial pomp, obligatory confessions, and the cult of the saints. He assailed the clergy at all levels for the lack of morality, values, and education. As a scientist, he questioned the contemporary reality of miracles performed by priests and monks. 3. Leonardo was accused and brought to trial for sodomy. Whether Leonardo was homosexual or not, this church-sponsored persecution would probably make him despise the Roman Catholic Church. As a fundamentalist Christian is someone who believes that every assertion in the Bible is literally true. And a small o Orthodox Christian is someone who believes in the following doctrines, which are also found in the Bible: the incarnation, atonement, resurrection, ascension, second coming, and final judgment. The incarnation is the belief that Jesus was conceived fully God and fully human. The atonement is the belief that Jesus' life and death were perfectly righteous and thus atoned for the sins of humanity. The ascension is the belief that Jesus, as a resurrected body, physically ascended into heaven. The second coming is the belief that Jesus will return to the universe from heaven and fix the entire universe, including earth. And the final judgment is the belief that all dead humans will be resurrected with immortal bodies, and Jesus will send some of us forever to heaven, while sending the rest of us forever to hell. Leonardo was definitely not a fundamentalist Christian, and he probably was not a small o Orthodox Christian. Approximately 7,000 pages of Leonardo's notes survive, and none of those thousands of pages profess any uniquely Christian belief. Some of them do have drawings of Christian scenes, but as far as I know, those drawings were for paintings that Leonardo did not plan to do for payment. We know that throughout his life, Leonardo questioned dogma and expressed his doubts about the literal interpretation of the Bible. Leonardo found evidence in fossils, rock formations, and the movements of water that the earth was much older than the Bible and Roman Catholic Church taught. Recognizing the fossils as remains of once living organisms, Leonardo reasoned that such fragile shells could not have been swept so far inland and survived intact. He also noted that the fossils commonly lay in successive rock layers, evidence that they were deposited by multiple events rather than by only one. And he observed that groups of different fossil shells found together resembled the living groups assembled in coastal waters. For all these reasons, Leonardo correctly concluded that the fossils came from animals which once inhabited an ancient sea that covered the land. That having been said, perhaps Da Vinci was some kind of very liberal Christian, one which rejected all the irrational teachings of Christianity, but who kept every Christian doctrine that seemed good and true. Perhaps not. What happens when someone is raised a Christian, rejects all the irrational teachings of Christianity, and keeps all the rational teachings? There's a good chance that she or he is better categorized as a deist than a Christian. That is what happened to people such as George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson. They evolved from fundamentalists / small o Orthodox Christians into deists. What is a deist? Simply speaking, a deist is someone who bases all of his or her beliefs on reason and still concludes that God exists, or at least probably exists. Reason is one's ability to perceive reality as honestly and completely as one can, and then construct logical explanations for what one perceives. God is the one who many people believe purposely created the universe. God is not the same thing as mindless nature, nor is God some other kind of mindless force that does things. God is a very intelligent being or beings who purposely planned the universe and then purposely executed that plan. Deists often liken God to an author who remains hidden and silent. To learn about God, we must read God's metaphorical book, the universe. Listen to Leonardo's very deistic words on this subject. Quote, "The grandest of all books, I mean the universe, stands open before our eyes." End quote. Leonardo constantly read that book of the universe to learn the truth. He did not rely on supposedly holy people, holy books, or holy institutions. The earliest biography of Leonardo was the first edition of Giorgio Vasari's Lives of the Artists, which was written in 1550. In it, Vasari wrote that Leonardo's cast of mind was so heretical that he did not adhere to any religion, thinking perhaps that it was better to be a philosopher than a Christian. Vasari was Roman Catholic, and this is how a Roman Catholic might easily misunderstand a deist. Deism is a very simple belief system compared to Roman Catholicism. Although deists believe that God exists, compared to Roman Catholicism, it has almost no doctrines. Deism seems more like atheism or agnosticism than Roman Catholicism or some other forms or other forms of small o Orthodox Christianity. Yes, Leonardo was a mysterious man whose actual religious beliefs have been debated for hundreds of years. He has been called an absent-minded Roman Catholic, a forerunner of the Protestant Reformation, an agnostic, and an atheist. But, given the information I have just presented, I am convinced that he was probably a deist. To back up this assertion further, I will share two quotations from two of his modern biographers. Diane Apostolos Cappadona wrote, "He found proof for the existence and omnipotence of God in nature, light, color, botany, the human body, and in creativity." That sounds like a deist to me. Marco Rossi wrote that Leonardo believed that man is the handiwork of a God who retains few links with traditional orthodoxy, but man is emphatically no mere instrument of his creator. He is himself a machine of extraordinary quality and proficiency, and thus proof of nature's rationality. Once again, that sounds like a deist to me. No discussion about the maestro's true religion would be complete unless the subject of the Da Vinci Code were mentioned. Are the claims of Dan Brown's book correct? No. The Da Vinci Code is like the movie National Treasure. Both are works of fiction based on historical people, places, events, and myths. I will let those who are more knowledgeable than me about this subject elaborate. The following assertions come from different scholars and can be found in a book called Da Vinci Decoded by Michael Gelb. None of the collections of Leonardo documentation has anything about the Priory of Zion. Leonardo had absolutely no time for such secret mumbo-jumbo. The figure on Christ's right is the youthful St. John, who is awaking as traditionally from a doze. He's typical of Leonardo's pretty young men. The Da Vinci Code is fiction, not history. The myth of some kind of sexual liaison between Christ and Mary Magdalene has been around for years and lacks any kind of historical justification. There is no knowledge of any activity on the part of Leonardo in the field of cryptography other than the obvious use of reverse writing in his notebooks as an intention and his intentional obfuscation of design details in many of the drawings for his remarkable inventions. The possibility of a line of progeny emerging from the union of Jesus and Mary Magdalene is an enduring mystery and delicious speculation that belongs in a novel. In conclusion, Leonardo da Vinci's true religion was probably deism. Whether we become deists or not, let's follow Leonardo's fine example and make the most of our time and talents. Each human is like a shooting star, and Leonardo was among the brightest of us. May we also metaphorically light up the night sky of life as much as we can, using our intelligence, bravery, and creativity